Welcome to Bayou Time. I'm your host, Tam McGee. We have a very interesting panel of guests today. We were talking about parish-wide proposition to rededicate an existing tax towards SRO officers. We have with us today Parish President Dove, Sheriff Saunier, Houma Police Chief Terrio, and State School Superintendent Bubba Ogeron. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks
for having us.
No, glad to have you on. Let's start off just kind of talking about what is an SRO officer, what they do in the schools. Maybe superintendent can kind of give us a little background on what the SROs are doing in the school system.
Sure. So the main priority with our SROs is preventing anything major from happening. Just really kind of watching over the safety of all of our kids and teachers in particular. One thing that you may not realize is they're very involved with the day-to-day operations of a school setting. For instance, we could have a threat of some sort, and the SRO gets really involved because they're so connected with kids. So when they know a lot of things that are happening inside the workings of school, they are very instrumental in extinguishing a lot of these kind of situations right out the gate. So day-to-day operations, safety, I mean, invaluable. Matter of fact, it's one of our main priorities is having a SRO in every school. And this rededication is really going to help us get very close to having that goal achieved.
And sheriffs and police chiefs, this probably wasn't something that was part of your job 30, 40 years ago, but this is something that's new, that's actually becoming a really big part of what your department's doing. Sheriff, you want to weigh in on it, and police chief after?
Well, I taught a lot of school safety and a lot of things in the earlier part of my career in law enforcement. I mean, most people in our age, when we went to school, I was the furthest thing, and I think the teachers and administration, I was the furthest thing from my mind is having security set in schools. And training teachers, training a lot of things that we've been able to do to bring awareness of what's happening. And we always try to stay ahead of the game. And now with events that's happened in the past, we're trying to bring it to light, make sure we kind of start taking care of the issues of having SROs in the schools. And it's been something we've been doing for the last couple of years really hard. We've had them, but we've increased them. And I think that's the reason why we're here today, so we can, justify what we're trying to do and what we're trying to accomplish.
And police chief, you're providing officers every day. People might not realize that's part of HPD's job as well.
That's right. And look, and our children's safety is of the most importance. But what a lot of people don't realize is they're not just there for school safety. They're a mentor, they're a coach. And by having the SRO on site, they can build relationships with the children. The kids feel comfortable with them. They can go to them with problems. And often our school resource officers are finding out about things way before it's even getting out into the public. And oftentimes, by the time the parents are hearing about it through social media and different things, our school resource officers are already on top of it and handling it and taking care of the problem. And look, they're not just mentors. Even the school resource officers are even coaches at times.
And look, that brings a really good point. You can't train a deputy or a sheriff's officer to be an SRO officer like you would train him to do narcotics or you would train him to do theft prevention. This is specialized training. Am I right?
Yeah. I can answer that.
Yeah.
Go ahead. All right. First of all, you have to have 2 years law enforcement experience. And then one thing we've learned, it's about the right personality with the right school that can connect with the children and administration where everybody can work smooth, especially when information's given. Those guys out in the forefront is like the most proactive thing we possibly can do on when we hear things that's happened to school, and especially before things blow up on social media, like it was saying. We're able to put a lot of things to rest before it gets out of hand, and we're ahead of it because that SRO's there already doing what needs to happen, and we can get on it much faster. I mean, we've had several things that come on social media that bring the community, oh my God, what's going on? But our SROs are already on it. We can send extra reinforcement there so we can put things to rest to kind of keep the storm down, especially with social media and what we're dealing with those schools. So it's paying dividends, but these guys having them in the schools, it's utmost importance.
And it costs money to train these guys to get them to be the right kind of guy, to invest 2 years into them before they can even go into a school. So this is an expense for the sheriff and HPD above what y'all were doing 10, 15 years ago.
That's right. And it's a long-term commitment. it's not instant. It takes us time to get them in place, but we're doing everything we can. And this millage is really, really important to us.
And this has changed too, Superintendent, from probably in the past when you first started your career in education. SRO is a much bigger part of it, as they're telling us. Is that fair to say?
Exactly, no doubt, no doubt.
You
And
s-
it's a huge expense on our part as well, because we support the salary portion of all of our officers. So we're hoping that this can offset a lot of the costs on all of our parts. As it says, it's about $1 million a year. That'll help us tremendously. And like I said earlier, we really want to achieve that goal of an SRO in every school. We're not quite there, but this is one of the barriers that are kind of in the way is funding, and this will help tremendously.
Everybody, doesn't know exactly how much it might cost to put one officer into one school. It may seem a lot cheaper on the front end than it actually is.
That's right.
And that's what we're talking about. And it's going to take some actual real funding. Y'all been kind of band-aiding it along for the last 10 years as this kind of come to the forefront.
Right.
But it's going to take some real funding. We've talked about the need. We've talked about the cost. Let's talk about how we're going to pay for it. Parish President Dove, there's going to be a parish-wide proposition. This isn't a new tax for everybody out there. We know Terrebonne Parish doesn't like new taxes, so we're going to be very clear with everybody. We're looking to rededicate an existing tax. Let's start with this first simple question. What tax are we looking to replace?
Okay, in other words, the parish-wide proposition, 1 mil rededication is not a new tax. We have a 1.66 mil on the Terrebonne Parish Health Unit and Health Unit facility. We're required by state law to have a health unit. We're building a new one. This tax was put in years ago. It raised $7 million, so we're going to construction with it. In fact, you'll see it in the future. You'll see a groundbreaking on it, and we're going to bid. So we don't need the whole 1.66 for it. We only need the 0.66 because we have to maintain it, which a mill brings in about $1 million a year. So that gives us about $600,000 to maintain the Terrebonne Parish Health Unit, the new one we're building. So the other 1 mil, we've decided to go to the voters and see if they're comfortable with rededicating it to the school resource officers and safety in schools to protect our children. And like I said, it's early voting is this Saturday. So if they could put up on the screen, I think we gave them one. But if you see this, it's going to say Parish Proposition 1 mil rededication. And I want to reiterate, it's not a tax. It's going to raise $982,000 a year, which is going to go 100% to the school resource officers and safety in all our schools to protect our children.
And that brings up a question, because we did try this already in 2018, but that was a new tax on a sales tax. And I think some Republican groups came out against it, and it wound up failing miserably on the ballot. But that's different this time.
This is a total rededication, not a new tax. And if we don't get, we have to get reoccurring funds to keep and maintain school resource officers in our schools. We see what's happening all over the country. This is a very serious situation, and the law enforcement's on board. And I want to thank the school. Bubba Onger on them with the school system has really been on board, the sheriff and chief of police, and of course Terrebonne Parish government. So we hope everyone votes for it, and like I say, it's not going to anything but the safety of our children.
Now, when we talk about it, the money will help pay for it, but it's not even taking up the total cost, Sheriff. Is that correct?
No, it's not going to cover everything, because we're looking at that money is going to be shared between Houma Police Department's SROs and ours, just to kind of help offset a little bit of the cost that we're accruing between the school board, parish government, and what we do day to day. It'll help take some of the blow off, so we can kind of keep moving forward and provide more security for our schools that desperately need it.
And Superintendent Ogeron, I mean, if this money comes in, this can give you extra money in your budget you didn't have before to educate kids. Is that fair to say too?
Yeah, definitely. And what we're really doing in conjunction with this, we're putting other layers of safety as well, which are significant costs. We're doing perimeter fencing and vestibule entries and all that. We've been budgeting $1 million a year just to do that. So this is typically added on top of that, so it'll help us tremendously achieve some of those other safety objectives.
People don't realize when they built all the schools in the 50s, 60s, and 70s,
Right, exactly.
they were not designed for schools for student safety. It wasn't
Right,
even
right.
their concept.
That's
they were
right.
actually designed for access, for people to come into the schools, not to
Right.
limit
Exactly.
access.
Yes.
So we ask a lot of our officers, to monitor the entire situation.
Hmm.
So you're saying if we got this money, you could have more money for perimeter safety.
That's right. Yes.
Very interesting. I think the thing that people we need to keep hammering home is that this is not a new sales tax. You're not going to cost you any more money than what you're actually paying right now, and it doesn't even pay for the cost that you really are taking in your departments. And we were talking at the break. Not every officer is suited for this job. You've really got to spend some time recruiting these guys. Got to find the right guy to be in the situation. You may be a great narcotics officer. You may be a great road deputy, but you might not fit in the school system. So that's one of your challenges, right?
Yeah, and it's in so many different age groups. We have everything from the small children all the way up to our young adults.
So
And
somebody who's good in high school might not be good in elementary
that's
school.
right. That's right. And it takes a special officer to do it, a very patient officer, but we want a seasoned veteran officer because we want somebody in there that's going to stop the threat. We're looking to put police officers in there. We're not putting it's not a security guard that's going there. We're putting police officers that can protect our children.
And he has to be able to develop a relationship with the kids.
right.
He has to be able to be somebody they can go to, because part of that is recognizing and having trust with the students that he is somebody that they can talk to.
That's right.
That's not the normal officer necessarily. Maybe that he is, but it takes some recruiting.
That's correct.
Well, Sheriff, I know you've got a lot going on, and this can probably help you with a little bit of your budget as well. Kind of make sure that you can use some dollars from elsewhere too.
Well, we do everything we can for the schools, and we do everything we possibly can, and continue moving our normal commitments from day to day. But I mean, it's definitely going to give us a little more wiggle room where we can continue pushing that direction, because we're going to give every resource we possibly can to help the efforts, because I wholeheartedly believe it, and it needs to happen. And like I said, this is not a new tax. It's not. And basically, we have to ask the people, because even if they vote no, it's not going to change anything other than we're asking for about $1 million a year of this millage to go towards putting SROs in the school.
Their taxes do not go down. It just stays where it's going right now. Police Chief Terry, you were talking about it. You're not saving anybody any money if you vote no.
That's correct. You're just going to stop the money from going where we need it with our children. And no matter what, you're going to be paying the same tax at the end of the day.
So people at home, it's either you're paying for you're giving a health unit more money than it needs, or you can be giving it to our law enforcement to protect our children at the end of the day. That's what this proposition really is. I don't see how anybody votes no against that. That seems pretty clear to me. Before the break, we were talking, Sheriff, and you were about to say you went to President Dove to talk about this. Walk me through what happened with that.
Well, first of all, the millage that was voted on many years ago, okay, did it meet its purpose? One, we confirmed, he said, the money to raise to build it, which the funding's there to build it. The money to maintain it. Well, we're not taking, the money that was already presented to build it, so they're going to be breaking ground. So now you're looking at the .66 mills is going to stay with the health unit to maintain that. We're asking for that 1 mil to shift that money towards school resource officers. So it's not going to change any tax or anything other than we have to ask the public's permission at the ballot to let us take that million and put it towards school resource officers.
President Dove, when Sheriff came to you and presented this to you, how long it took you to say yes?
Look! I got to give the sheriff, Chief Travis Terrio, and Bubba Orgeron. These guys have jumped on this from day one to protect our children and haven't stopped since. It's been going on for a few years now. This is something that happened overnight. Terrebonne Parish, we put up $2 million in American recovery money, and we started buying automobiles. So the parish is buying the automobiles to put at the schools, and that's where the officers are going to come back and forth. So like I said, we've already put up $2 million, and the cars are coming in. The cars are coming in, and you'll see them. They'll have SROs, school resource officer.
People don't realize that it's not just the guy. I mean, you got to pay his benefits, you got to pay his equipment, his everything that goes along with it, his car, everything. It's a pretty big cost for one SRO.
And remember, when he goes to lunch, you have to have somebody there to relieve him. You know, I mean, if he's sick or something, you have to get it. You know, these guys got to get another officer to go replace him. Then they've got to have someone to oversee all these guys. It's imagine it's a sergeant or something that oversees all these guys. So they've got, besides the cost of the guy himself, it's the support behind it, which is major. You know, besides the training and also. And look, and you know, I also want to thank the archdiocese. They've been working with us on the Catholic schools, and some of the private schools are working with everyone. So it's been a concerted effort, and I thank everyone. I want to thank everyone who's been on board. And now we're trying to get some reoccurring funds that we can keep it going with funding.
You know, I've been lucky enough to be an elected official as well and serve the public. It's not all the time that we get to come together and all agree on something and get behind it. But I think this is one of those opportunities where the superintendent, the police, and law enforcement leaders, and the parish president can come together and kind of rally behind something and push it out to the public. Sheriff, you want to say something on
Well,
that?
I like, he came up with it. What I had questions just as the public. So did it meet its need? The answer was that yes. So did the mill provide the funding to build the health unit? Because that was his original intent. The answer to that was yes. And is that millage going to be able to, part of it, going to continue to maintain it? The answer was yes. So its intent was met, and he was able to find money there. Now we can kind of use that money, reallocate that money towards needed security, so we can continue focusing on that.
Yes.
And so it was his idea, but it was a great idea, and reallocating so we can continue moving forward and provide security to our children, and our children deserve, and also the teachers that do their job every day, they deserve to be protected and have a safe environment to conduct their business.
That's something we don't talk about, and I think superintendent can tell us about it, is you're not only protecting children, you're protecting teachers too.
That's right.
And,
Yes.
and you're making, do you find it's a morale boost for these teachers where they know they have safety in the schools?
Without a doubt, yes, without a doubt. Yeah, and echo what Sheriff said. We thank parish president, parish government for bringing this about and including us in this process. So we're very thankful for that. And like you said, Tanner, I think our teachers in particular are thankful for this. Just give you one quick story. We have one school that's has some construction going on. A lot of open doors and people moving in and out, and teachers were uneasy. You know, so what we did, and it was a school without an SRO, so we transferred an SRO temporarily to that school. Teachers are comfortable. They have a sense of, calmness, and they could focus on instruction just because they feel protected. And I think that's, we have all of these pieces to our safety plan. We have 20 points of a plan. This is the most important point, is having the person who can stop a threat immediately. And it just gives a sense of calmness and ease. And I think it'd be the same for parents, knowing that a person's there. So if you're a parent, this is for all of our schools, private, parochial, public, all of us. As a community, it's just a good thing.
And again,
So-
we're not asking for any new money from you.
That's
I know,
right.
I know
Good
we're,
point.
we're keep repeating it, but we want to make sure that gets out into the public. No new money. You're paying it no matter what. We're just moving it from one thing that doesn't need all that money. And we could provide peace of mind. My parents were both educators. I don't think they ever thought a day in their life they had to worry about safety.
Right.
That
Yep.
they went, how do I educate my kids? How do I get through these kids? And right now,
Yeah.
we got distracted teachers. We got parents who are concerned.
Uh-huh.
And we might not be able to solve that for them, but we can at least make them feel a lot better.
That's right.
All right, that's about all the time we have for this panel of guests. We talked about school safety and the SRO. We have a parish-wide proposition. It'll be on the ballot. If you vote yes, you're voting to rededicate money from an existing tax source to provide SRO officer at every school and help out law enforcement and help out our school system pay for kids. Thank you for being on, and thank you. We'll see you next time on Bayou Time.
Thank you, Tam.